Running a business comes with constant learning, and that's where the Business Blend comes in. Every month we bring local entrepreneurs together for a quick, practical talk on a business topic that matters, followed by a time to connect and share ideas. It's a simple way to stay sharp and build a stronger community.
Briefly about me, I was just going to tell you I've been in banking for 25 plus years. I know I don't look that old, but I have. And for 21 of those years, I worked in retail banking at a very large bank that won't be named. And for the last 4.5 years, I've been at Washington Trust Bank. So the differences between working for a shareholder-owned company and a privately owned company are crazy different. And so I'm a huge proponent of a small local community bank and the ability that we're given as bankers to help our clients in a much more personalized manner than just collecting tax returns and faxing them off to an underwriter that might be in Des Moines or something like that. Seems like a decent chunk of mortgage lenders here too, and so it's always great for us to partner because I'm sure you guys know self-employed people can be a little bit difficult or have some nuances to getting financed. So even if you're in mortgage and you're not a small business owner, I think banking is a great partner for you guys to have to help your clients be successful. So I wrote down just a few things that I would talk about relationship management being important, and please feel free to ask questions. You don't have to wait till the end or anything like that. But the number one thing that I would say is that you can have regular communication with your banker so we know what's going on with your business. I cannot be a specialist in every type of business there is, right? Like I have a lot of contractors. I don't know anything about construction, but I can research, I can study, I can understand challenges that their business face. Marketing, I don't have a huge deal there, but I can understand what Adam might be facing or what he might need in the future. Being able to share in those goals with you. So, maybe you're currently renting and then you want to expand or move into a permanent building, and right now you're not ready for it. If you have that relationship and we know that goal, we can say, hey, you're gonna need 25% down on this building. What's your plan for saving that? Or you might think, I can never buy a building because I'll never have 25% down, and we can then share with you SBA financing that has a smaller down payment and longer terms. So when we have a partnership with you, we can understand what you need, what are your goals, and how are we going to get there. The other important thing I think is seeking early financing when you start a business. So when we see people a lot of times for financing, they've already run into a challenge, and if cash flow is low or you've overextended yourself with credit cards, by the time you come to us, sometimes there's not a lot that we can do. So if you start that relationship with your banker early, we understand your needs. Getting a small business credit card, even if you haven't been in business for 2 years, is gonna help you build a relationship with your bank so that we know who you are, we know that you're a solid business owner, that you follow through on your commitments, things like that. If you just walk into Washington Trust like, hey, I need to consolidate some debt, or I'm not gonna be able to make payroll for the next 6 months, and there's no relationship with us, that's a hard go with any bank. Likewise, only having a lending relationship with a bank and not your checking accounts and savings accounts also makes it hard for us because we don't know everything that you have going on in your banking side of things. So a lot of times we'll get some customers that maybe use their business checking at a local credit union, but then they come to us for lending because the credit union has no more business funding available, but at Washington Trust we do. But we can only go so far because we don't have the whole relationship with you. And where you might need an exception or an extension on credit, we're not able to do that because we don't have the entire relationship or anything to look at in your history. The third thing that I would touch on is fraud. And as banks advance, fraudsters advance. And sometimes it feels like we're one step behind. And we employ some of the best fraud prevention and IT specialists, but have any of you ever lost your debit card and then got on the phone and had to wait to report it lost or stolen, anything like that? So you can just call me. You can call my cell phone, you can text me, and that's our footprint wide, right? Or you can call the local branch, you could, right? Like maybe a customer might call me, Adam calls me and says, hey, I see fraud on my account, I'm traveling, can you help me? I might be on the road, but I'll call Stacy and I'll say, hey, Adam just called me, can you shut down his debit card? He doesn't have to get on an 800 number, anything like that. And to me, that's a huge advantage in a world of trying to stay one step ahead of fraudsters. I also brought a few examples of ways that I have personally been involved in helping customers because we had a relationship with them. We have a client who is a wonderful customer. The bank has banked with us since the beginning of their business, lots of financing, a line of credit, all that. And we got into a situation where they had a chance for the business to expand. And needing 2 years of tax returns is pretty standard when you're looking at any sort of loan over maybe $50,000. I'm not going to speak for all the banks, but that's pretty standard. And they had run into a scenario where their tax returns weren't going to be completed on time. So because they have the relationship with us, because we have that history of keeping their financials on file, we were able to extend the credit that they needed because of that relationship with us, what they have on deposit with us. Whereas if they had just walked into the bank and said, hey, I need this, but I don't have my taxes. And that might be a unique scenario, but being able to then get those tax returns, the next month, we were able to help that customer based on their relationship with us. And then the last one, a business client that needed additional products, but they weren't able to provide the financials that we needed and hadn't had a relationship with the bank. And so, underwriters' jobs is to make sure that we're taking care of you, but also taking care of the bank. So whether it's Washington Trust or your bank, having that relationship and having your bank know you is going to be crucially important.
So I get to work with a lot of startups, and early on in that point for them, I guess I'd like to understand what kind of barriers you run into as a relationship banker with a business that's got less than 2 years time in business.
Sure, great question. So the standard for business lending is usually having at least 2 years of experience under your belt. That's so that we can review financials, profits and loss, balance statements, tax returns, show that the business is profitable and can pay for itself. If you have less than 2 years of that history, it's really hard for a lender to make a decision on cash flow lending. Do you clear enough cash to pay us back? If you had a line of credit for $100,000 and maxed it out, could you pay us back? So less than 2 years, a lot of times we're going to look at SBA financing, where the government will step in and help guarantee that loan. Does it mean extra paperwork? Always, because it's the government, right? But when you need to have cash flow and get started and pay your workers, or be able to remodel the kitchen of your restaurant, or be able to hire ahead of time so that you can sufficiently serve your client base, having that ability to have some extra funds available is crucial. If you run into those challenges after you started your business, again, now you've depleted cash flow and we don't have a ton of information to go on for lending. You can, however, again, start with a small business credit card with less than 2 years in business. And the reason I advocate so much for that, number one, use it online when you're purchasing or anywhere like that, because if that card's compromised, it's a lot easier to shut that down than to have your bank account drained. Number two, you're starting to build a solid relationship with your bank and with your credit score of being able to manage a small business credit card and get free cash back. Whatever card that is, Chase Inc. is pretty popular. And I know a lot of people take their families on vacation with the rewards from Chase Inc. So that doesn't mean go get a Chase Inc. business credit card. Come see me first. But those rewards are wonderful perks to help you get some dough back in your pocket.
But the idea that I see so many businesses come to me, and I'm sure it's the same with you, where they need something they need to make payroll this week, or they need to get something financed quickly. How do you start the conversation, not in that situation, but what's the best way for me to catch them a year earlier when their cash flow is healthy and they can qualify for better lending?
Yeah. Also a great question. To me, a lot of that onus falls on us as bankers, right? When I came to Washington Trust, I inherited a previous banker's portfolio, right? So he already had a bunch of customers. So making sure that I called all of them and knew all of them. And understand where they're at in their business, right? So they're flush with cash, right? I'm not going to call up and, la, 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 you need this, you need that. It's more like, hey, I'm Casey, I'm your banker, tell me what's going on in your business. What do you see coming in the future? So again, you go back to relationship banking, it's going to be huge that we know each other and that I understand your plans. And unexpected things happen quite often. I think just in general, not necessarily the small business world, but a lot of Americans are one medical emergency away from not being able to pay their mortgage. And small business owners are no different. And so having that backup in place could be the difference between, your business closing and you being able to make it through a tight time. We can also put some of that onus back on a small business owner to make sure that you're being proactive in knowing what challenges could face your business. And understanding that even if you're not a fan of credit, you very much well could need it in the future. So speaking with a banker and understanding what products are available when you start your business, not 5 years into it, is really crucial. I would tap on Juan. You have anything to add? You see a lot of startups.
The question to you too is some folks come in thinking that they can't get anything because of their bad credit. What do you offer them for advice on how to fix the bad credit?
I think sometimes people have a mindset that if you have bad credit, that's who you are. I have bad credit, I can never qualify for lending. I have a very personal story of being raised to not spend money you don't have, always pay your debts. I got married. I bought my house at the peak of the housing market, and a year and a half later, it was worth half of what it was worth. I then got divorced. My husband was self-employed. He walked away with no debt because his taxes showed that he didn't make any money, but that's a whole nother presentation about taxes. And I ended up losing my house. I had a bankruptcy, and it was horrible, and I felt like such crap of the human. And so I feel that I have a special ability to tell you, you don't have to stay there forever, and you can build your credit back. So what did I do personally? I had to wait a couple years, and then I had to start with a secured credit card with Capital One, right? I had to send them $2,000, I had saved it up, and then I had to show that I could pay that off. The same thing goes for business owners. We can offer a secured product. So maybe you're credit averse, right? You've had a bad experience, you know your credit score is not strong. Save up some cash, start with a secured card. We offer that. Most banks offer a secured business credit card. The other thing is that you can still apply with us, absolutely, and we can see what's on your credit report and help you. So I have a client who the first time he came to see me, the answer was no. He owns a construction business. And so we went through the credit report and I said, here's why it's no right now, and here's what we need to do. So we don't just mail you out a decline letter and tell you to have a nice day. We want you to come back and figure out what you need to do. So I think it took about 8 months, but the second time he came back, we were able to help him with a loan so it was secured, he needed a trailer. So we were able to finance that trailer for him. That then gave him the ability to sell some older equipment, get some cash flow. He had used high interest unsecured loans to start his business. Couple months later, we were able to help him consolidate those into a secured loan backed by a lot of the assets he had in his business. So we took 4 high interest unsecured loans and consolidated them into one loan with a lower monthly payment, which then freed up more cash flow, which then enabled him to be able to qualify for a line of credit. So we started a year and a half ago with a no, and now here we are with a line of credit, a loan for a trailer, and a secured business loan to help him consolidate high interest debt. It was a very wordy answer, but you followed, right? So no doesn't mean no forever, it just means no right now. Education on credit scores is huge, so. If you have any other questions on credit scores, come see me or send me your clients that maybe can't qualify for a mortgage yet, because you don't have to stay there. It's a fluctuating thing.
I'm just, what is your branches, or I guess maybe appetite, or what are you not lending for? Is there a certain type of business that is too risky, or?
It's a gray area, I think, and it really depends on where we are in the economy and what's going on, right? You come see us in 2021 because you want to start up a restaurant, yeah, we're still recovering from COVID, probably going to be a big challenge unless you have a ton of cash on hand. But I wouldn't say that there's a hard no on things we don't do. Obviously, most banks aren't going to get involved in money service businesses lending. So like you own like a casino, you're going to want a specialty bank like that, or anything like marijuana based. That's pretty hard. But other than that, if I can't do it in small business, we have commercial partners that I can refer you to. So if I want to buy, somebody wants to buy like a set of apartments as an investment property, we don't do that in small business. But our commercial lenders will do that because it's not owner occupied. You're not going to live in those apartments. But usually, if you come to see us, we'll find the person that can help you. Not just, you're not going to come see me and I'm going to be like, sorry, I don't do that. Go away.
I was going to ask, because you mentioned consolidating high interest credit card debt into a more manageable loan for a business owner. Is there a better way? Because that worries me if somebody comes and says, hey, I'm starting a business and I'm going to max out my 4 personal credit cards in order to get it started.
Absolutely. Personal credit card debt that you used to fund your business is hard to refinance. It's tricky because you have to be able to show what expenses were used for the business. It can be done, but it is tricky. And the loans that we were able to consolidate for the customer weren't credit cards. They were, high interest. I wouldn't say predatory, but high interest lenders that are going to give you a loan. Or a lot of times QuickBooks will give you a loan, or your credit card company will give you a loan, right? So to me, SBA is going to be a better product for you because even though the interest rate is higher, you're able to, succinctly write off the interest with the good accountant. You need a good accountant, but you can write off that interest and be in a better spot to refinance that or pay it off sooner, right? There's only a few loans that have a prepayment penalty. SBA commercial real estate over 10 years is going to be one of those. But for the most part, we can help you. Especially, we make a payment that's manageable for you, but then you can double up or pay down your principal. I would advocate more for looking for an SBA product as opposed to putting your small business debt on a personal credit card. Even though SBA rates might seem higher, most credit cards are going to get you around 18, 23, 24, 26. But not all businesses are SBA eligible. And sometimes we might say, or I would guess Juan might say, you're not ready right now. Let's do these steps first before you open this business, because we want you to be successful. We want small businesses to thrive in our communities. We don't want them to have this great idea and then go off and then fall into that 90% that are shut down within the first year.
From your perspective, and this is maybe too much in the weeds, but is it better to try and get like a $10,000, $20,000 loan to buy like a group of vending machines, or is it better to try and finance individual machines as you're growing it out?
Yeah, I think being product specific is important. So vending machines are an interesting one because there's so much that goes into it, like where it's placed, how much you're going to spend, is that product going to sell? We have a decent chunk of vending machine customers, but it's really going to depend on where you are personally in your finances and what you ultimately want to accomplish. So I would just say what you can successfully pay back if that loan was maxed tomorrow is what you would want to do. But having a banker and having that relationship is what's going to drive, the difference. If you walk in and you're like, hey, I think I need 20 grand, there are places that are going to say, okay, let's do an application for 20 grand versus me saying, tell me what you do, tell me what your goals are, tell me what you have, tell me about your accountant, right? We're going to ask those questions to understand what's going to be best for you. And you might not like the answer, but that's our job to help you be successful.
Every time I sit down with a new business, one of the questions is, who is your banker? And if they're like, oh, it's X bank, it's always, no, who is your banker? Because there's a difference between banking at a bank and having a banker, right? And I tell them, like, if there's somebody that you have at that bank, having a relationship and being able to pull out your phone and text them is a lot different than calling a 1-800 number.
The communication piece, like you mentioned, being able to text, that's a huge thing for us. I always ask my customers, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Do you want me to email you? Do you want me to call you? Do you want me to text you? And so it's crazy how many people will just, text me like, hey, I need this and this and this. And I'm like, hey, great, I'll take care of it for you, right? Sometimes the phone rings and you're like, oh, I don't want to talk right now. So if you're not getting that from your banker, then I would, even on the personal side, right? As mortgage lenders, I'm assuming sometimes real estate agents run your own business on the side, like as your realtor, being able to know what kind of business account is suitable for you and things like that is also helpful, depending on the pay structure of your mortgage situation.
And admittedly, this is more for the camera, but like, what would you say to people who may feel really vulnerable? Like, this is my finances. I'm going to go like reveal myself to a person, but then even in that like personal relationship, like I think about when I go to Watch Trust, like everybody knows me. And like that is a little bit nerve-wracking. Like, does everybody know my financial state? I don't know if I want everybody. So like, what would you say to the people who are nervous about that vulnerability and having that relationship?
That's a great question, and I think it's a real concern for sure. First of all, understand how highly regulated banks are, right? We can't go out to coffee and talk about your finances, right? Your privacy is of utmost importance to us. Like the examples I shared with you today are very generic, no identifying information. But before I worked in banking, I didn't understand anything about it. And so it was like the big unknown. And now that I've done it for 25 years, we're working with you, you're our focus. But when you're gone, we're on to the next focused, whatever's next on my agenda for the day. So I don't revel in, blah, 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 had this credit score or this and that, right? Our job is to help you, and that's what we want to do. And your expanded finances are probably not available or a topic to a frontline person that's helping you with your transactions. Your relationship banker is going to manage more of that and keep that private. I would encourage you to share because we can't help you if we don't know what's going on.
So with businesses like construction or other like higher tier service organizations, do you guys have plans to help their customers finance their projects? E.g. like construction, like, oh, I might want to remodel. Can the construction company say, great, we have a finance plan available up to X amount that they've partnered with you on? Like, are those types of things that Watch Trust can assist with, or is that?
More complex products are going to go to more complex bankers. So commercial lenders might start there. We might move on to like wealth management and things like that. For the sake of what I do, I think of small business as, does it walk like a small business, talk like a small business, right? Is revenue around $1 million to $2 million? Do you have 10 to 15 employees? Those are the basic things that I'm looking for as a small business lender, and we're gonna be able to help you with an array of products. When things get more complex, we refer you to a more complex banker. But I would always encourage you to ask before you, we might have a banker who has a customer that has explored that avenue already, and then we can share with you that experience. So I appreciate your time today. And I brought some cards. We also brought some notebooks and pens with styluses and highlighters that are really great. So I'll leave a card here. You could text me if you have another question, but I appreciate your time, and thank you, Adam and Sean, for having me. Yeah.